building a new country, but they have no navy, they have no air force, they have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar, they have no telecommunications, and they have no leadership. It's all gone. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further.
The president sort of making conflicting statements there. He says that the U.S. is prepared to continue its war with Iran. He also said he thinks it could end soon. The conflict now entering its second full week. Iran's government is pushing back on President Trump's claim that it has no leadership. Iranian officials say the newly appointed supreme leader, the son of the previous supreme leader, would lead the defense capability of Iran, even though a long war with the also said that he thinks it could end soon. The conflict now entering its second full week. Iranian government, as is required under local regulations, but maintains full editorial control over what it reports. Here's part of their conversation. Iran has a new supreme leader. What does that mean for your military effort and the confrontation with the United States and Israel?
That means the system is quite functioning.
So the United States says it's drastically degraded the Iranian military, the capabilities as far as missiles is concerned, drones is concerned. How much longer can you do this?
That is one of the false narratives that quite functioning.
So the United States says it's drastically degraded the Iranian military.
As you see, because they have the motivation, they have the arms that they need, which are produced in Iran. As a matter of fact, we are not dependent on any other country for weapons and arms.
So your side is ready for a long war if the United States and Israel choose that. Do you consider this an existential threat to the Islamic Republic?
It is an existential threat to the Islamic Republic, and therefore we have to stay.
Is ready for a long war if the United States and Israel choose that. Do you consider this? It's David Sanger, who also is one of the top writers of the New York Times. Welcome. Good to see you in person.
Good to be back here.
So, first up, we've got a new supreme leader. How different is he than the old supreme leader?
Well, we don't know very much about him. He's obviously the son of Ali Khamenei, the previous Ayatollah. He is reported to be significantly more conservative and better tied in some ways to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Certainly he was not President Trump's preferred candidate, but I thought it was sort of interesting that the president today didn't completely rule out working with him.
Yeah, so President Trump, throughout his time as president, even before his time as president, has argued against this idea of these endless Mideast wars. He sort of mocked George W.
The president today didn't completely rule out working with him.
Yeah, so President, we accomplished what we wanted. We're getting out. So he gets out, ends this thing in the next week or two. What does that mean for Iran? And where do they go from here?
I think the first question is, what has the president accomplished if he gets out in a week or two?
Right.
So let's run through his list of objectives. We're not going to use our objectives, we're going to use his objectives.
Yeah.
Okay. The first is regime change. Well, certainly the supreme leader is dead, but if he's replaced by his son, may not be
his younger son when he was 86 years old to begin with.
That's right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that's number one. Second big objective was rid them of the nuclear program. Well, so far as we can see, they have carefully not touched the military program with the bombing. They do want to get the near bomb grade uranium that's stored largely at Isfahan out of the country. That was one of the diplomatic, or as we can see, they have carefully not touched the military program with the bomb. Get it? That would be pretty difficult. But that would be number two. Has he gotten it out? So far, no. Number three, has he brought down the arsenal of missiles? Well, certainly they've depleted a fair bit of that, and they've
More than a fair bit.
more than a fair. That would be pretty difficult. But that would be number two. Has he gotten it out? So far, no. And then the fourth is, has he helped the protesters, who he said help is on the way?
Yeah.
And so far, we haven't seen any evidence that he has moved them toward overthrowing the government, which he said he wanted to go do, and democratization.
But if he sees really bad poll numbers, if he sees the price of oil going through the roof, if he sees bad numbers at the Dow, if he sees his own Republicans getting weary because they've got midterm elections, and he just says, I've had enough, I'm done. I want to change the channel on this TV show.
Yep.
And oil going through the roof. If he sees bad numbers at the Dow, if he sees his own Republicans for us.
Well, it could be. I mean, if you're a country that has just gone through what Iran has gone through here, the impulse to go finish that nuclear weapon is going to be a whole lot greater. Look, there are two countries that have been big adversaries for Donald Trump along the way. North Korea in the first term, Iran in the second term. What's the difference? North Korea raced ahead, got their nuclear weapons, now has 60 or more,
And said,
can reach the United States. Have you heard on the way? North Korea in the first term, Iran in the second term. What the meetings, they went through their diplomacy. It failed. He said he would get the weapons dismantled. He didn't, and so forth. So if you're the Iranians, what lesson do you emerge from with that?
Same with the Ukrainians, by the way, who didn't get their nuclear weapon, and now
Well, they had them and gave them away.
Gave them away.
Right.
So let's talk about something else that's interesting, because this is not just the United States war with Iran. There's also Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu, who has a lot of incentive to keep this war going, because as long as there's a war, then he's not facing some of his corruption charges. Where does the U.S. and Israeli interests align, and where do they maybe break apart?
Well, so they do overlap considerably, but the Israelis keep discussing regime change and want the government of Iran to be left with.
And Israeli interests align, and where do they maybe break apart?
Clear that President Trump is happier to do what we've heard from Secretary of State Marco Rubio and from some of the members of the Defense Department, which is just degrade Iran's capability to exercise any power beyond its borders.
But Israel doesn't go. So if Israel says, that's not enough for us, we're staying with this.
That's a real problem for the president, because they came into this together. Now, whether they came into this because, as Secretary Rubio said, the Israelis said we're going to go in anyway, power beyond its borders.
But Israel doesn't go. So if Israel says,
Not out fully yet, but it would be really difficult for one to stop and the other not to.
well, it's fascinating. It's been so great to see your coverage here on